And I actually think that that's a ridiculous idea conceptually, but changing the belief system within me is quite a challenge. If you can only support creators who provide value and make you think, please consider contributing to my Patreon page the next time you watch one of my videos. Hello everybody and welcome. So kind of continuing with yesterday's concept, which was a little bit of my thoughts on the movie Unplanned. I decided today that I wanted to talk a little bit about how we have this whole argument over which side is right, and the reality is if we want to change anything, we have to start changing the bigger issue, not just the side effects of whatever is going on. So when it comes to abortion, or whether pro-life or pro-choice is acceptable, ultimately it comes down to the stability of the household, the capability of the parent, the financial situation, the acceptability of society, the safety that the individual feels, and things like that. And unfortunately, we live in a very unstable society. And by that I mean that many people are struggling financially, or they don't feel like they have the capability of taking care of a child. They don't believe that they're a parent type. They don't feel like they can walk down the street pregnant as a teen and be accepted. They're going to be judged and laughed at or ridiculed. So it's not a very safe environment for them. And financially speaking, it makes a lot more sense to, say, have an abortion. And it doesn't make much sense to carry a baby fully to term, even though there are plenty of people who would want a newborn baby who can't have them. So when it comes to solving the bigger issue, we kind of have to go to a societal level where we need to start treating people like equals, no matter their situation. We can't judge people for the things that occur in their life. We need to be able to support everybody so that they're not worried about their survival. It shouldn't cost somebody an arm and a leg just to give birth to a baby that they're not going to keep. I mean, there's so many things that we need to figure out before this problem can actually be resolved. I mean, you can ban abortions if you get everybody on board, but ultimately you're still causing a problem. It's similar to sending people to jail, where we send people to jail all the time for minor crimes and all these other things, but we don't actually rehabilitate them. So most often, if somebody's been in jail, they will return to jail at some point in their life because they're still the same person that they were when they went in the first time. So why wouldn't they commit the same crimes? Why wouldn't they do what they believe is necessary to survive or get by, or, correct given their life situation? So if we want to prevent people from going back to prison, or we want to stop people from having abortions, you have to start changing the psychology and the economic system. And that's a much bigger project, which is probably why most people don't really talk about this concept. I know that I've mentioned in a previous video that I would like to start creating a community like this where everybody's supported, everybody contributes to the betterment of society. And it's essentially like re-tribalizing, where you end up in a community where you know everybody, you deal with everybody on a regular basis, and you have like a set friend and family base where you always have somewhere to come home to. And I know that Teal Swan says that loneliness is the worldwide epidemic, and I would even say that loneliness is just a side effect of the deeper issue, which in my opinion is actually lack of confidence or a lack of belief in your own worth or value. Most of us struggle with this concept that we're good enough in some area of our life. For example, I often wonder if I'm good enough to earn money outside of the 9-to-5 job. I wonder if I'm good enough to deserve the help of the people around me because I can't support myself, and that's a big deal in our society. It's not okay for me to be in this financial situation and not be pursuing a 9-to-5 job in order to resolve that. I'm told, well, I don't know if I'm told necessarily, but I feel like, and this is kind of a societal belief that's interposed on top of me, that I'm taking advantage of people to pursue my dreams and goals, and that's not right. I can't accept charity. It's not okay. I should be able to take care of myself. And I actually think that that's a ridiculous idea conceptually, but changing the belief system within me is quite a challenge. So what I want to do is start helping everybody change that perception. And I know that I can't change society on a big scale, but what I can do is help those who want to follow down this kind of path. I know that a lot of people have told me, well, you probably won't be able to accomplish that in your lifetime because you have to get everybody on board. And I'm like, well, no, we don't. We live in a very technologically advanced culture. I can get 1,000 people on board, and if I have 1,000 people all contributing to a society where they are helping the community develop enough funds to keep it running, that's sufficient, and then more people come on board and you can create more communities. But the truth is, I don't need everybody on board. I just need the people that want to do this. And as we figure out how to make it work, maybe other people will change their mind as well. But the focus of that community is going to be adjusting and adapting psychological thought patterns and, creating a healthier society of acceptance and allowance. I know that there are a lot of biases in our world and a lot of hurdles that are completely unnecessary. And so I kind of want to bypass them and be like, we don't have to live in this society. Because personally, I believe capitalism is reaching a point of failure. More than likely, we will fluctuate between capitalism and like communism for years and years and years to come, unless we actively start figuring something out that will work for a long period of time. And even then, it'll probably be corrupted at some point, and some new concepts will come into existence because, life has changed, so you can't make something work forever. But you can make something work for now. So that's kind of what I want to do. And when it comes to concepts like abortion or, issues along those same lines where you're trying to figure out what's right exactly in a community where nobody has to worry about their survival, nobody has to worry about their financial situation, nobody has to fear having a major medical issue. Now you actually have the infrastructure available so that somebody could carry a baby fully to term without any fear. It's not going to be any more costly for them to have the baby than it would be to terminate a fetus before it reaches whatever point it's no longer feasible to abort. I don't really know much about the technical side of that. Of course, in that particular instance, you also have the whole issue of, well, she will be pregnant for 9 months. And I think the only reason that people really wouldn't want to be pregnant for 9 months, other than maybe the physical discomfort, but assuming that you could have that taken care of pretty well also, to where it's just merely an aesthetic thing, the reason that they wouldn't want to have the baby would be because of the judgment of the people around them, which is where it comes back to the psychology of the group and the belief structures that underlie the thoughts that occur within them. So if nobody judged her for an accidental pregnancy, there'd be no condemnation that she'd have to suffer through. And I think that would be a wonderful thing, particularly in that instance, because now you have no negative side effects of doing whatever it is you think is right. And that's not to say that everybody would agree that carrying a baby fully to term is right. There are probably many people who still believe it would be better to abort. And, I don't need everybody to agree with me. Honestly, if one feels right to you and the other doesn't, go with the one that feels right to you. There's no reason for you to not follow your path. It's your path. But the point of this is you give them the option to where it's not detrimental for them to follow a different path if they want to. And that's kind of where I'm coming at with this, is giving people the freedom to follow whatever path they want to follow, whatever path they believe is right. Aside from some really obvious things like don't kill, there are very few rules that you need to interpose on somebody if you're dealing with their base psychology. Even killing, I think, would become less and less common as you deal with psychology as well. I've kind of talked about killing before. I know that Teal Swan mentions this concept of walking in somebody else's shoes as well, where you can start to understand a serial killer if you consider what would bring you to that point, and then you can start to understand how maybe you can help them come out of their negative emotional state and re-enter society as a happy, helpful individual, whatever that means to them. So that's what I want to do with this community, and that was something that I was reminded of when I watched this movie Unplanned. I believe that there is so much we can do, and I know that we're going through some struggles as a society lately, largely due to technological development, and a lot of people believe that history will repeat itself in many, many ways. Personally, I think this is going to be a very big change, and I would rather start implementing the necessary shifts now rather than waiting for change to force us into a new way of living, because we know that when we wait for change to happen to us, it's often much more violent than what we see when we pursue change instead. So that is all that I have to say today. I hope that this video has got you thinking a little bit, or given you a slightly new perspective. I know that I can be a little confusing, but hopefully if you keep watching my videos, you'll get used to it. So thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.